Okay, hello folks. Rainy day scheduled today. We got a email from a lady named Whitney in Ohio, and she brought up the subject. Remember, she brought it up. She asked me what I thought about lunging, and I don't make this stuff up about people because I hate it. I just answer what's asked of me. So I am going to talk about lunging and my thoughts on it. I've never seen anything that helps regular people out. I think the reason it's used, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is the training world. And there's two things. There's a term came up a few years ago, and they said I had to round pen him. Well, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but round penning, a lot of times there's people that drive a horse around a round pen both directions with a whip, and can stand there and eat a hamburger with the other hand. And the only difference is there's no lunge line on them because the round pen's keeping them in the county. But if you'll ever watch anybody doing it, you'll notice the horse's head's turned to the outside. And the thing about it's called lunging. She put a name on it, and it was called lunging for respect. That's what it was. Well, lunging for respect to me is like, it doesn't make sense to me. An animal, to me, when you lunge them, and you very seldom see anybody walk a horse lunging, which is still wrong, but if there's anything faster than a walk, the natural instinct of a horse is fight or flight. Okay, so if you lope them around in circles, and you think that one of the things I heard about is to get the steam out of them. They're feeling their oats. I don't know. There's 100 different sentences that happen to go with lunging the hell out of a horse before you get on it. And it's just dead wrong. A horse is not stupid. A horse knows that when you've got them 30 feet away from you or 20 or whatever it is, they know the difference between that and you sitting on their back. And I believe in groundwork. I'm a real big believer in it. But the distance in groundwork from the halter to where your hand is on the rope, if you move your hand up to where you would be sitting on its back, it's the same length as the rein. So in other words, they're not that far from you. And that way you can bump the head and control the nose. And I use the word bump, not jerk, not hold. You bump and release, bump and release, bump and release. And the whole premise to me on preparing a horse to ride is if they'll cross their hind legs both directions, they're probably pretty good. Okay. On a ranch, because that's what I relate to, is you always untrack a horse before you get on him. Okay, it was called untrack until I moved to town. And then it turned into a one rein stop. And in the Bronco days, they called it doubling them. But that's when they were on their back and going stampeding, so they doubled them before they got too out of line. Anyway, I'm kind of goofing around here, but the point is, lunging has never shown anything for me that's productive in making a horse and sharing with a horse what it is that you want. Now, the circus world, if you'll notice, they lunge them so much, and they put a little rim around them in a circus. It's about 8 inches high, and they turn them loose and they stay inside that.
And they have a surcingle on them.
And they got their head tied back. And so that horse is trained just like a wind-up doll to go in a circle and stay inside that little piece of whatever it is holding them in.
That's liberty, right? I mean, basically.
It's basically liberty training. Liberty, to me, full liberty is when there's nothing on them. Okay. But lunging for respect, I don't see it. And lunging to get a horse tired out so you can ride it is a joke to me. Because all you're doing is building up their muscles. You're not going to tire a horse out.
So today you lunge him for an hour, and tomorrow you lunge him for 2, etc., etc.
It just gets worse. And it's the same thing with the round pen deal, where you stand in the round pen and make them run around with their saddle on. Well, I've watched a whole lot of horses, when you turn them loose and you run them around with their saddle, they'll cow kick.
And buck.
And they'll drop their head and sling their head because they're actually playing. Okay, and you're thinking, oh boy, I'm sure glad I did that. Well, If you'd have just untracked him and got on, they wouldn't have done that. But everybody gets to decide what they want. So this goes back to, again, a lady talked to me about fear, and she wanted me to make a video about it, which I have. But her point was is that about my level of fear because I broke my neck. Well, okay, I have no fear. I had no fear when I got on the horse, and I have no fear now. And that's just the way I am. I don't think about it. You can't help but your body tells you, you know, something's falling apart. Well, you use that to your advantage. You can feel a horse starting to wad up.
But I've also seen you get on a horse and get off immediately because you knew something. It's not like you decided, I'm going to ride this out.
No.
You're smarter than that.
I'm no bronc rider by no means. Anybody that's ever been around me can guarantee you that. But like what she's saying is I can get on a horse and I walk about 3 steps and I can feel them wadded up underneath me. Now there's wadded up and then there's wadded up. Well, I get off and either hand them back to the dink that handed to me to ride, or I untrack them and I untrack them and I untrack them both directions, and then I might get back on. But what it means in reality, folks, is that if you've got a horse that's wadded up and you're worried about a whole lot of things, then you miss the foundation. That's what it goes back to, just like lunging. If you do a good foundation on a horse, you don't need to lunge them.
Right.
Deb put on one of the channels on your phone deal showing the worst.
It was on Facebook. I shared it.
Okay, if anybody saw that, that to me was the worst I've ever seen for a Olympic level professional trainer to do to a horse. And he just happened to get videoed, and he wasn't the only one. Well, it happens in every part of riding. It's not just English. Things are done to horses that are absolutely wrong, and that's one of them. But anyway, my take on lunging is it doesn't do any good because a horse knows when you're not on their back, and they know if you've got a stick in your hand or a whip, and when you put the whip down, you get on their back, they're like, okay, you're mine, because they resent you. So just all you got to do is learn to untrack them across their hind legs, both directions. And know that if a horse is all wadded up like he's going to buck, then you got to go back to square one. And remember, I've said it 1,000 times, there's a difference between people that go trail riding and people that work on ranches, which are trail riders with cows in front of them, as opposed to people that are doing things for a ribbon. We don't need a ribbon. We were in Long Island, New York, and we were guests of some people to take us to the Rolex, which is supposed to be a big deal. Rolex, get it? So we went, and
I think it was the Hampton Classic.
why wouldn't it be? All right. It's a make a manure horse show. All right. So we went, and of course I drifted away because it was like watching a turtle die in the arena. So I drifted over to the warm-up pen, and that's where you see all the little tricks and things. People are trying to get that horse right for the student or client to get on, and all the trainers and the grooms and everybody. And there was a poor guy, and he had this pony on probably a 30-foot lunge line and a really long whip, and it was literally running in a circle, running, not loping.
Now, the reason you say he's a poor guy is because he was just the groom. He wasn't anybody.
He wasn't a trainer. He was a guy that cleaned the stalls, and then they said, hey, Felipe, you're going to do this. And I'm thinking, I'll bet he's just so proud. Anyway, he just ran the horse into the ground. They time it so that when the class is up and the little kid's standing on the mounting block, then they just lead the pony up, put the kid on, goes in for 5 minutes, and it's done.
But we saw him there for like 2 hours at least.
It was a long time running this pony down. Well, that came from it when they first started. Probably took 20 minutes. Well, they build up the muscles, and everybody knows ponies. So that was one of the ones that we physically watched up there, that high dollar deal. And then I've seen now you go to a Brandon or something, some guy will get out of his truck and get a flag out and start working his horse. And it's like Ray Hammond, who was one of the best hands I ever rode with, he'd say you're supposed to train him at home. And that really means a lot if you think about it. So, anyway.
Can we go back to the fear thing? Because I do have fear. And
Yeah.
I just want to say that at some point when you're riding a horse, you just have to do what you can do. I mean, if you want to ride, then you have to ask yourself, look in the mirror and say, do I really want this? And if you say yes, then at some point you just have to get on and deal with your fear there. Because, you know, I do groundwork. Probably I track my horse every time I get on, and I do some groundwork if I haven't ridden in a while. But at some point, you just have to do it. You have to decide to do it.
That's right. And when you decide to face your fear, don't enter the bronc riding.
No.
Get on some dinks old enough to vote, and then where's your way up to the bronc riding?
Get on Big Old Brownie or something
That's
like
right.
him.
We got a big old brownie right here. So anyway, lunging for respect is a joke. It has nothing to do with real horsemanship, and I would never do it, and I would never condone it. Okay. So
and round penning. A round pen is a thing, not an action. I just want to say that because it bothers the heck out of me.
Well, there you go. I know I feel better.
Good.
3 days in a round pen means you're going outside when you're starting colts. That's kind of how it works. Not 3 months. Same with an arena.
Right.
You get
Especially
going.
if your horse is at a certain level, you definitely shouldn't have to run it around in a round pen to get the buck out of it.
Well, and understand that once a horse has been around a round pen once, he already knows the country. It's not like he's looking for new country, because it's the exact same thing, and that's where the brain of the horse gets resentful.
You got to tell one funny story in this video about our friend Joe.
Our friend Joe in Ohio. I don't know where we were, but it wasn't in Ohio. He called on the phone, and he was talking really fast. He says, this horse is running away, and I don't know what to do. And he was kind of panting real hard. So he called me on his cell phone to let me know his horse was running off.
In the round pen?
And then I said, well, where's it at? And he said, well, it's in the round pen. I said, well, hell, I'll be right back. Don't worry about it. And he's going around and around trying to talk to me on a cell phone. And I said, Joe, you're not going anywhere. Just relax. And it stopped. You know, he thought, I don't know what he was thinking, but it's no different. And our friend John called him and saying, I'm trying to get a calf out of this heifer, and I put my arm in it like you do, but it just feels like a bucket of guts. He said, and it was nighttime. And I said, well, you know, it's dark inside her too, so don't worry about it.
Doesn't matter.
So I talked him through pulling a calf out of a heifer over the phone, and it made it. So when I tell you leave your phone number, then leave your phone number. But okay, folks, we're going to France in May, and we're going to be there the 13th of May through the 20th. That's just over the divide if you want to come by and say hello.
I'm going to be putting the details of the actual locations on our website. We're going to be in both Brittany and then in Normandy.
So there you go. So if you're anywhere in that country, we'd love to see you.
We had to cancel, of course, because of my operation, but we had a bunch of people who were going to come over from the UK to audit, and I'm going to try to find their emails, but if I can't, I hope they see this video and will get in touch with me.
Okay, Levi's roping's coming up in September. The actual date for it is about to be decided, so I just want to give you an early heads up, because it's the world's poorest roping, and it's a social event of the year for us. So we'll keep you posted on when it is.
And it's in Medford, or that area.
White City, Oregon.
Got it.
And anyway, it's real special, and Levi, we named it after him because he's like Mr. Cool in the roping world. So stay tuned on that one. Now I wanted to tell you about my friend Sherry Vineyard. And her dad, Don Roberts, owned the PK Ranch when I worked on it. And he owned 5 ranches between Montana and Wyoming. And Sherry and I were really good friends. She was a really, really good person. And she grew up on the ranch, of course, and she'd been through the calving shed and the whole deal. She was very, very intelligent. And her and I worked out a grazing schedule, because she figured out, after we visited, when I went to work there, we talked about a grazing schedule and how beneficial it could be, and all the things about intensive grazing and rotational grazing. So she was kind of aloof. She wasn't a real sociable person. And a lot of people thought that she was stuck up, but she wasn't. She was just one of those people that didn't like to chat. Okay? And she was a phenomenal roper. She was one of the steadiest headers that I've ever met. And they used to have mixed ropings. I don't know if they still do, but it was a man and a woman, and she could win every single time because she was so consistent. And back then, this was in the 80s, she would put a camera down at the end of the arena to video her coming out of the box, and that's how she studied it. And it was pretty impressive. But anyway, we lost her to cancer, or she had some brain cancer. And I just want to say that for those of you that knew Sherry, I know we all miss her because she was just a really, really good person. And she made a big impact on my life. And when I quit, I didn't quit cowboying, but I took a break for 2 years and went to college in Sheridan because I didn't know math. I faked my way through grade school and high school, and I didn't know math at all. So at 37, I quit and went to town, and I day worked on the weekends, but I went to Sheridan College and got a degree in ranch management. And I also, what it meant was I went to the learning center, I think it was called, and learned math. So she used to help me because she was really good at it, and I could call her on the phone and she'd walk me through a problem. So I'll always miss her a whole lot and respect her. So anybody that knows her, you know what I'm talking about. And she was one of those people that influenced my life big time. And I do have something I want to mention. Aiden up in northeast Montana, you need to get a hold of me because I got some news for you I want to talk to you about. And this year is going to be a really good year because I'm getting more involved with the ranching, because Chinaco is at the perfect age to get on the payroll. And you all know we don't have a ranch, don't have any cows. And of all the years, imagine that. But anyway, I'm going to be involved with a rancher, and that's going to be another fun thing that'll be coming up this year. And we'll be documenting that. And I think it's I'm going to call it the new rancher, is this generation of people that are getting better at what we do. And I'm real proud of that. So I'm happy to be involved with it.
And I'm going to show some footage in a minute about some milestone in Chinaco's training.
Yeah, I went to a local branding the other day, and a bunch of real nice folks. And Chinaco, that's the most it was his second branding, that's the most he's done as far as roping calves. So we had a really good day. So anyway, I hope everybody survives the winter okay, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Okay, folks, and I already know what's going to happen. Deb just reminded me. Most people don't have a small vise at the corner of their supper table. All right, I'll just get this over with because I know there's a bunch of guys going, what?
It's to hold your fork.
What in the hell he's doing? So if you have tough meat, no, this is where I work on bits when it's rainy day schedule. And this is just a plate of steel. And I can lay it on the table because it's heavy, and I can connect my vise to it, and I can work on things. So that's why there's a vise at our dinner table. Goodbye.